Okay, chat, before we get started, give me a phrase to put in the email for this week. Go ahead. Just put something in the chat, because I'm going to send out the email like I do every week. If you give me a magic phrase that will get somebody to click on it in the email, the newsletter. If you also haven't signed up for the newsletter, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. And we'll make them come to this Wednesday live stream with 500. Yes, that. Okay, something like that.
So we had Steve's 60th birthday party celebration.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Wait, happy birthday!
Oh, yeah! Thanks,
Steve,
Ian.
light the candles. Wow,
Yay!
good.
That didn't work.
Oh, the whole cake disappeared.
What the hell?
And there's another one. Okay.
Yep, I'll do it.
No, get out of there. Too
So
hot.
we had a great great weekend. We went away to this place called Mohonk.
Mohonk. Yeah.
Mohonk.
Honk honk.
It's in New York State.
Upper State New York. Yeah, that's fine. It's just a place to go hang out, go swimming. We did horseback riding,
We played bocce.
played bocce.
It was a ton of fun.
Threw some tomahawks.
We threw tomahawks. We
Tomahawks.
shot arrows. We went on an awesome hike.
They
and-
have like a observation tower. It looks like a little castle,
yeah, it's really cool.
on the top of the highest peak. It's a bit of a hike to get up there, but it's one of those situations where it's hard to get up there, but once you're there, you're glad you did it. It was definitely worth the hike. Plus, you wanted to do it for the exercise. Yeah, the view was amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
Absolutely amazing.
Huh? What, Ian?
Speaking of.
Uh-oh, here we go. Oh,
Uh-oh.
what the
Thank
heck
you.
is it?
Check it out. Show the camera.
I'm a bird nerd. Yeah.
Bird nerd.
Absolutely.
I saw that. Wait, hold it a little more. So the other camera can't see you for TikTok if you look at the bottom. Yeah, there you go.
Which one? This one?
So you're right more.
Right here.
There,
Yeah.
A little
See
more
over
right.
here, Steve.
There you go, bird nerd.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, this shirt is perfect for Steve.
I saw it. I was like, wait, Steve likes birds.
I haven't seen this hat in a long time, man. This was
I know.
our Swami hat, right?
Something like that.
We did for the extravaganza.
Yeah, I think there's a reason we put it away.
Okay.
Oh,
So Perry
yeah,
wore
just-
that hat.
No, this is a different one.
Oh, it's a different
I
one.
bought this one for the extravaganza.
Oh, for the extravaganza,
Yes.
not
For the
not
mind
older
reading.
one. For the mind reading segment, because it's a cultural trope that
Yeah,
the hat goes along with
yeah,
swamis.
Mind
that's
or
true.
whatever.
I know. I don't want to offend anyone. God forbid I wear a hat.
No hats for you.
Yeah. So,
Hat.
I'd like to say a few things.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Global warming, man.
Okay. All
Global
right.
warming is really
It's happening.
It's happening. It's bothering me because, like,
We
the,
had
the ice
how to
shelves are
stay on
melting.
record recently.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And the ice shelves are unmistakably changing.
Yeah.
And shrinking, and giant chunks of ice are going into the ocean. And still today, Steve, world governments are doing basically nothing.
Well, I mean, yes, they're not doing nearly enough. So at least, the Biden administration had the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really a climate change act. And it was, actually successful beyond all expectations, honestly. So
Yep.
there's basically two types of approaches that you could take at a government level, right? And there's the carrot and the stick. You either punish people for producing CO2, or you incentivize people for doing things that will reduce their carbon footprint. So you subsidize electric vehicles. You make it easier for companies to invest in green energy. And that has led to billions of dollars of investments in green energy in the U.S. It really worked very, very well. And for a couple of reasons. One of the things was that it just made investments more predictable, right? So if you guarantee loans, you lower the risk for the company. They're more likely to make the investments.
Yeah, of course.
The other thing that they did, additional law they just passed, this is like just a month ago, a few weeks ago. They basically, this is a pro-nuclear law. This is a bipartisan bill that essentially makes it easier to build new nuclear factories by streamlining the regulations, shortening the time it takes to get approval, increasing the basically more people to review the forms. Because like if you're a company that has to invest, you're trying to build a nuclear power plant, and you submit the regulatory paperwork and say, okay, somebody will look at that in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's literally what the situation
And by the
is.
time they get to it and then build the damn thing, could be a decade.
Well, not only that, it also, you don't know what the prices for stuff are going to be 3 years down the road. That happened to the wind farms. There were all of these wind turbine projects, offshore wind turbines, that are great locations, the mega big wind turbines that are very efficient, generate a ton of energy. And then the COVID happened, and the supply line, problems happened, and the prices of raw materials went up, and then suddenly the price of those projects went up before they could be completed, and a lot of the companies just backed out.
Yep.
They said we can't do it now. The prices have changed. So that delay, that regulatory delay, is really problematic in many ways, and not just for nuclear, but again also for wind. And part of the delay is also they're waiting for hookups to the grid. It could be 5-10 years before they get around to building the hookups, because you need a lot of fancy equipment and stuff. So, and also there's lots of regulatory issues there too in the U.S.
and then there's all those guys that are standing around with hard hats and 2x4s that are doing nothing, right?
Well, even that aside, even like any grifting aside,
But
it's just that
What are they doing with 2x4s?
structurally it takes a long time to do things. It makes investments very tricky. It means the return on investment is delayed by a decade or 15 years. It's crazy. So this is something that that governments can do. It's like, okay, let's see how we could streamline the process. Basically sometimes just putting more resources towards the people who review the applications and do the environmental studies and do the
but there's
the
also
things that need to be get
it's
done.
not just that. It's not just more people, but there's also a little bit of cut the shit sentiment in there. Like let's not make this stuff take so long because these departments are not functioning properly.
Yeah.
People are.
But it'd be from a practical on the ground factor. It's like, okay, we're going to streamline the process, make it easier, and we're going to make it happen faster.
Right.
That is huge. And then we'll give you a little bit of incentive at the back end too. And then the other issue is infrastructure, right? So that's something that's usually done at a government level. And it's like, well, we need to expand the grid. Then just do it. Let's just freaking do it.
Stop talking about it.
It's going to cost billions of dollars. It's still going to be way less than what global warming is going to cost. So, yeah, at the one end, we need the technology, but you know what? We have the technology. We have it.
We can rebuild him, Steve.
We can. It could be faster, stronger, better, lower carbon.
I mean, look, it
footprint.
turns out that all that bullshit griping about energy coming from nuke power plants was bullshit.
Yeah.
Especially with the fourth generation power plants, they're insanely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
But don't they use the old crappy leftover stuff from the third generation?
Well, they could, but then you have to pay to reprocess the spent fuel. So again, we like to be precise in our language, right? There really isn't any such thing as nuclear waste. There's just spent nuclear fuel. And the reason I say that is because one person's waste is another person's fuel, right? The only difference between nuclear waste and nuclear fuel is, can you burn it? And whether or not you can burn it depends on two things: on the reactor design, but also on how much you're willing to spend to reprocess or process that nuclear material into something that's fissionable, that is economical. So yes, the newer reactors they're trying to make them so that they can burn more of the fuel that is fed into them, right? So it's not like, oh, we're going to burn this 5% of the fuel and the rest is spent nuclear fuel. And rather they're going to try to burn 20, 30, 40% of the fuel. And then if we wanted to, we could reprocess it and burn more. We could do that. And this is an issue because, which is another sort of government level kind of thing that affects these technologies, whether or not we're burning coal or burning, fissionable material, is do we have a supply of uranium?
Yeah. And
turns out over the last 20, 30 years, we have not been securing our supply of uranium because we were, the nuclear industry was sort of winding down.
Yep.
And so now Russia has all the uranium. They sort of gobbled up all the uranium, just like China has all of the rare earth elements and the cobalt and everything. We sort of let these other countries secure these supply lines, so not that it matters from a global perspective in terms of just global warming, but it does if a country is not politically stable, or if a country that's going to attack other countries and then we have to ban any buying stuff from them, or it controls all the uranium. That's not a good thing for the nuclear industry, which then if they can't secure the fuel, then again that makes it a lot more of a risky investment. So basically, making it economically viable is often about making it predictable, making loans predictable, shortening the return on investment.
Tax breaks, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. It has nothing to do with the technology. The technology is there. So, and then from an industry perspective, it's, again, with the nuclear industry, it's because there's so much regulation, the way to get their lead time and their investment down is to do the same thing, the cookie cutter approach. Come up with one design, and then get approval for that design,
and then build about 20 of them.
Build 100 of them, build it over and over and over again, and they're working on that. That's what Bill Gates is dumping $1 billion, a lot of money into a new a Gen 4 nuclear power plant. And it's a sort of a sodium. It's a metallic cooled, not sodium cooled. It's metallic liquid metal cooled reactor that then uses sodium to transfer the heat to the turbine that makes the energy, and that creates the ability to store the energy and then that nuclear power plant could also act like grid storage. It
Now,
could act
Steve,
like a battery.
Now, Steve, we
Now,
got
if that first one is going to lose money because it's the first one, and he knows it. He's like, I don't care if I lose money. I'm going to sink a couple billion into this to make it happen. But the goal is to work out all the kinks, get the approval for the design,
Yeah.
show that it could work, and then build 100 of them.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Now you said so we have this radiation, right? And then we
Yeah.
have this liquid metal you were talking about. Now, what are the chances that like a crazy robot comes out of that liquid metal and just starts
Right.
destroying shit? Is it we
Close
have to
to
worry
zero.
about that?
It's pretty
Okay,
close to
just
zero.
checking. That's
Yeah.
my job. I gotta sift through the nonsense here. Steve Blackwell, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, one of my best friends.
Good to see you,
Amazing,
Steve.
amazing guy. So I got a couple of cool things. to say.
Wait. We
Well,
didn't start the entire show. Welcome to Wednesday live stream, July 31st, 2024, everybody. We're playing music so you know what's happening. On this episode of the live stream, we're going to be talking about a bunch of things. Creationism, potentially. Olympics are satanic. We're probably not going to talk about that, but maybe we'll jump into it.
I've been waiting for the Satanic
I'm
Olympics
sorry.
my whole
Well,
life.
maybe just a
Satanic
short.
Olympics.
Series 8. We'll leave the light on for you. Name that reference. Chat. Come on. Anyway, and then TikTok time. All right, that's all I have to say. We can
TikTok.
just get out of here. Also, this is the SGU. There's the freaking logo.
So we because of circumstances, we typically record the show on Wednesday nights. We're not recording it tonight. We're recording it tomorrow night. So I would like to make a statement that I was going to make on the show tonight.
Uh-oh.
I'd like to make that statement right
Oh,
now.
my God.
For those of you who are SGU patrons,
Ooh.
Ian, are you ready? Suspense.
First,
Playing-
thank you for your support.
Got any music? Okay.
The same music that I had
No,
before?
don't play that.
Okay,
We
fine.
will be live streaming the 1000th show to paid patrons only.
That's true.
So if you're across the planet and you wanted to come and you couldn't come, you will be able to watch the live stream of the 1000th SGU
Because
show.
the in-person version is sold out.
Pretty much. I
think there's
did-
like 5 tickets left.
I didn't.
That's so
I didn't
fever.
turn it off yet, but there might be a couple of tickets left. So bottom line is, it's a wonderful day to be an SGU patron because they're going to be
Yeah.
able to watch that show. Now we're also going to do some other stuff. Ian and I are planning on some type of like Chicago deep dish pizza, like eating contest type of situation.
Sort of, in a way. We're probably going to do a walkabout town live stream situation where we
Okay.
go
Okay.
check out some
The
food stuff.
SGU about Chicago.
Literally.
we
Should
have
we-
to go to the Bear.
Okay.
The Bear. Okay, we could probably make a stop.
Is
I don't know
that-
how
is that-
likely
is that
we'll
even
be
a
able to
real
get
restaurant? Does
into.
it exist in
I
Chicago?
don't know, actually.
Ian, should we interview locals about crazy stuff?
I'm like, what
I don't
kind
know.
of
Just
crazy
ask
stuff?
them random
Food?
questions. Anything. You
I
can
mean,
ask
we
them
could
anything.
do that. Yeah. I mean, no. So we're definitely going to go food because I'm a foodie, and
Yeah.
Chicago has some fantastic food.
That's what I
I
understand.
think we should try the pizzas. There are like a couple,
All right,
obviously.
but Ian,
deep
where
dish.
do you stand on deep dish pizza versus New York style
Well,
pizza?
I mean,
Come on.
the classic is to be like, well, they're different, but obviously New York pizza is better.
Okay,
I mean,
obviously.
and New Haven is its own thing. That's a whole
It
nother
is.
type of pizza.
It is, and even though I currently live, near in a suburb of New Haven,
Yeah.
and I'm a Connecticutian, I like New York pizza the best.
Yeah, it's
the,
still the
the
best.
New Haven pizza is a close second, but I got to give the nod. The best.
Yeah, I think.
Although the single best slice of pizza I ever had was in Pisa, Italy.
Yeah,
but of
well,
course,
that's
I mean, Italy,
Napolitana kind of
Pepe's-
style. Yeah,
Pepe's
that's like-
is like in the top two.
Pepe's is yeah.
modern. I
But-
think.
but
is
hold on.
better,
After
honestly.
but
pretty
we're-
much every pizza place in Manhattan.
You can't. I have never eaten good pizza Midwest or south of a certain line across the United
Yeah.
States. But
there's
like,
interesting stuff out there.
There's
There's
a-
Detroit pizza.
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
there's all. I know it's square.
the New
it's
York
like-
Times put out a top 20 list of pizza joints in the
Yeah.
country, and they did not list Pepe's Pizza.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
But
Crazy
that is kind of
sounding.
like Pepe's is interesting because New Haven pizza is like a poor man's pizza because it was like coal fired, coal workers, people working in industry. You know what I mean? It's like kind of was a harsh life pizza.
I mean,
Deep dish is
well,
a
the
novelty
ovens though
pizza,
are wood
though.
fired. Let's not. They're not coal fired pizza ovens. These are
Yeah,
wood
they
fired.
are.
No, they're wood fired.
in New Haven?
Yeah. New
Haven,
No,
they're
it's a
wood-
coal oven. I
Are you
guarantee.
sure? Okay, I thought.
I'm
for
almost
sure it was
100%.
wood fired.
I think they're wood
Chat,
fired.
correct me. You might be
Ian,
right.
I think they're wood fired, and
I think there's coal under.
and
okay,
my
whatever.
wife's
Go ahead.
grandfather built the freaking oven in that
In
Really?
Pepe's?
restaurant. Yes.
Wow.
He was friends with the
Whoa.
guy.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I like
so-
the whole history. See, the whole history of like Pizza Hut. It was like what was that? Wisconsin or something? Where it was
Right,
started, the
yeah.
Midwest, and the guy had no idea what pizza was.
Right.
No
Oh, he just
idea.
made it up.
Steve says Pepe's is cold, but
It's coal. I'm almost positive.
I don't know.
All
We'll,
right.
we'll have to. We'll need
And
more.
I was there.
Yeah.
And I saw the wood. But anyway,
All right.
Okay.
I have another
You
thing
might be
I
right.
want to say.
You might be right.
but they were afraid that they couldn't sell it in New England because, like,
Oh yeah.
people in the New York tri-state area know what real pizza's like.
Yeah,
That's
right.
totally true.
And they're correct.
Yeah.
We hate that.
Here's my summary on deep dish
Yeah.
pizza.
Deep dish is good.
It's good. It's good. It tastes good.
It's fine.
It's a novelty pizza
It's
that
fine.
every decade.
It's
Sure.
just not real pizza.
But-
It's
Wait,
just
have you
something
had
else.
it in Chicago though?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So this-
Charcoal, that makes sense.
Now look, I know this is a chain restaurant.
Okay,
so
fine.
Don't,
A type of coal.
don't
But
wring my neck.
Charcoal's more closer to wood than
Closer to
It's
All
half
right,
wood, half
that's
coal. Don't wring my neck here. But I used to like to eat at Pizzeria Uno's for their barbecue chicken deep dish pizza
Yeah,
that I would get with Steve Blackwell. We would go in there and we'd order it, and they didn't have it on the menu anymore.
Yeah.
So we'd be like, "Remember that chicken pizza you used to make? Well, we want a deep
We
dish
want
chicken.
that.
Yes, okay." And then I tell them, "Bring extra barbecue sauce." And then
Mm-hmm.
they never brought out enough. So finally, one day I went in there and I said, "What's the biggest like dish you have back there? Like I want like a gravy boat of barbecue sauce, okay?" And that was the norm then. From then on, that's what we did. Now that's good. That's good stuff. But I mean, day to day, no way. I would pick Pepe's a million years
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, but
over
there's
eating
some
that every
good.
day.
I mean, Pequod's in Chicago is good. I mean, even Pizzeria Uno is supposed to be really good. And then there's also Lou Malnati's. I think that one's. They're good. They're different, but they're.
Most of the
cheese, tomato,
Chicago deep dish pizza I've had in my life was in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, really?
Tugboat Andy's.
Baltimore.
Because they had a Tugboat Andy's Chicago-style deep dish pizza place, and that was like the only pizza place within walking distance of
Yeah.
where we lived. So that was, for 4 years, I had to suffer through deep dish pizza.
So Keith Davies lives out in Colorado. Wow, brain not working today.
Blasphemy.
And he claims that he makes good wood-fired pizza here. And I agree. You can make good pizza. You can. The altitude isn't it. It's not the water. It's basically the recipe and the
it's
quality of the
skill set.
ingredients and everything. But the run-of-the-mill pizza that you get anywhere outside of the New York City area, for the most part, there's little pockets here and there. Somebody knows how to do it. But I mean, up here, like bad pizza joints can't survive.
Yeah.
That's.
It all depends. If it's like some New
That's
Yorker
true
who
and not
went to
true.
California and opened up a pizza joint, fine.
Yeah.
The best Viennese food I've ever had
Yep.
was at a restaurant in Cheshire, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Hey.
Because there was a chef from Vienna who opened up a restaurant there, and he was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I went to Vienna, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, if that guy was good, imagine what the Viennese food from Vienna is going to be like. But it wasn't quite as good as this guy's stuff. He was anyway. You never know.
Yeah, so anybody that's in Chicago that wants to recommend like the best
Send us
pizza
all.
joint,
I mean, because we could do like the
could do a foodie
Chicago
tour of
dog.
Chicago.
Yeah, like the hot dogs obviously is like notorious, or Portillo's beef. That's like. There's also an upside down pizza something or other,
Upside
like
down
bowl.
pizza.
It's like a upside down pizza bowl that's like popular in Chicago. It's weird.
Isn't that a calzone?
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, never mind. It's a calzone.
Well,
It's
calzone's
called
a
something.
folded
Inside
over
out.
pizza.
It's
Yeah, that's
inside out,
folded.
okay?
It's like it's weird. I don't know, but
no, they're good.
we'll try it.
Calzones are fine, but
We'll try it.
nothing matches like. You have to have chewy dough.
Yeah.
It can't be too crispy. It can't be can't be if it's overcooked.
Crispy as Pepe's.
Crispy, but
That's very
But it's still
charred.
chewy though. It's still chewy. And the pepperonis they put on their pepperoni pizza. Damn, it's so good. All right, so
Anyway.
moving on.
Moving
So if you are a patron, Ian,
Oh yeah, we never got to.
Ian will send out a communique.
So I think we're saying the $5 level and up is going to get access to the live stream. So if you're going, there is a function that might happen on Patreon, but I don't know if we're going to get access to it yet. But basically, if you become a $5 patron, you'll have access to the 1000th show.
Yep.
And that will be live streamed later on. Anybody else will post it. I think we're going to post it on Spotify and then YouTube after the fact.
Olivia, you're going to be in Chicago.
Can we go to Chicago Place? You can walk behind us, and then we'll
Olivia,
yell
you're,
at you. and
You're
run.
welcome to join us. We can't have a mob scene. We just can't,
Right.
because we're already a mob as it
We're
is.
not going to tell you. You can sort of stream snipe
No,
us,
I mean,
but we'll try
Olivia,
not
you
to.
contact me
Where's
and
Waldo
I'll
with
let
the
you know.
SGU.
I mean, look, Olivia's coming from
Yeah.
Switzerland for crying out loud. Like we're gonna throw her a bone over here.
That's true.
She needs to little SGU food situation. We're gonna do
Yes,
it.
she's going to do a satanic pizza tour with their CERN connections or something. I don't know. Yeah, Pizza Bowl is at the Oven Grinder Company. I knew it was something. It's something in Chicago. Chicago's got a lot of food. Mystic Pizza is not that good.
Nah, screw that.
It's just a movie.
Nah.
But-
No, anything like that.
But bar
no.
pizza, you go to Stanford, you go to freaking Colony.
Whatever. I mean, look, I've
Anyway,
eaten
whatever.
good pizza
I
all
think
over
I
the
think
place.
I was at Mystic Pizza once. We went
It's
to-
okay. I mean, it's like
it was just pizza.
It's just
the
pizza.
thing is, there's 1,000 of those joints in Connecticut.
Yeah.
right.
Half of them are Greek, by the way.
That's right.
That's true.
There's a lot of Greek
And Greek
Italian
pizza-
Greek-run Italian restaurants, or they're just like Greek diners or
I don't like Greek pizza.
Greek pizzerias, but they're fine.
You know the pizza
They're
they make that pizza that has
Square.
like that definitive like crust on
Rim.
that rim thing.
Yeah.
It's just not my jam. That's okay, but people like it. Go
What
for
about
it.
the cheese and the crust?
I don't need
That's
that.
a gimmick.
The Italians really took everything the Greeks did and made it better, didn't they?
Yeah.
Is that the no?
Pretty
sorry,
much.
Just kidding. Pretty much. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to some stories. Do you want to hit that creationism thing
Yeah,
first?
sure.
All right, let's do it for Christ's
So
sake.
this is something we got a couple emails about. This
Chuck E.
is
Cheese pizza is terrible.
Oh, that's
my
garbage.
God.
That
Don't
is
they like
garbage.
piece it together, like, or is that Cece's
It's so
pizza?
greasy.
Everything at Chuck E. Cheese sucks.
Yeah, well. So this was Smarter Every Day. We got a bunch of emails about this. He kind of piped some creationism into the back end of one of his videos. He's usually a pretty good science communicator, but he kind of snuck that in. So let's just
Let's listen to him.
listen to him here. He's talking about this book where the conflict really lies. Science, Religion, and Naturalism. So here's a starter or primer.
Speak for everything in the book. I'm not done with it. It's called Where the Conflict Really Lies, and it talks about this interplay between science, religion, naturalism. It's very interesting. It goes more into the areas of philosophy, and I love it because it challenges me, and it's fantastic. So this is what I would encourage you. If you have your flag in a camp somewhere, I would encourage you to not defend a flag. I would encourage you to look at a flagellar motor and just think about it and think about how it is and what it be. It's a fantastic thing to think about. How did this get here? You have intelligence and you get to make up your mind. And I love that about consciousness. I love that about life. And so for me, the flagellar motor makes me happy. I feel joy. You know how when you go outside at night and you look up at the stars and you see all these stars and you feel small and you feel wonder? That's what this makes me feel like, even though it is small. I feel awe and reverence toward this thing. And as a Christian, this makes me want to thank God that it exists. I feel compelled with gratitude that this thing is so awesome. So that's just where I'm at. But what I would encourage you to do is just think critically. You have a brain. Don't defend a flag. Just think about how things are. And I hope you are very happy and experience the same joy I feel about this, no matter what you think about it. So anyway, enough about that. I want to say thank you to everybody.
All right, we can
that's
stop there. So
All right.
the bulk of that video, which I've seen, watched the whole video, is just an exploration of recent discoveries about the bacterial flagella. And it's cool, right? It is undeniably cool. The bacterial flagella is a little motor. That's what it is. It's a little motor. It has all the pieces of a motor, mechanically speaking, engineering, wise, and it has a power source and, gears and whatnot. And it's undeniably a complex little machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he dances around the irreducibly complex question here. He's being careful. He's not like overtly endorsing it in the video.
But he seems like he
But
wants
he
to.
is sort of, but he really seems like he wants to.
Yeah.
He raises it as like, people are discussing this. That, I think that's almost literally what he says, or people are questioning this. It's like, all right, but the thing, and then at the end, he tries to do the don't plant your flag but be open-minded thing, which is great, think critically. Again, it all sounds great, and yes, in theory, that is our philosophy as well.
But we read his subtext.
But there's a subtext there, and if you're saying that in service to a false equivalency, then it's not legitimate, right? Like you could make a lot of skeptical sounding comments about climate change. It's like you should always question the evidence and not just accept authority, uncritically, and all these things that are true.
Yeah.
But if you're marshaling them in the context of talking about climate change, that you could could be interpreted as climate change denial, right? I mean, and it in fact is that if that's why you're doing it. But so anyway, here's the actual scientific issue here. And he actually, if you raise a question to which there is an answer and you don't give the answer, that's not legitimate either, right? That's a little bit of mystery mongering there.
There's no interplay between science and religion, though, and
Well,
that's
science and philosophy, and and critical thinking, yes, but tossing religion in there makes it seem like it's all on equal footing in some way, or they're mutually compatible somehow. They're mutually incompatible philosophies, right?
Yeah.
Science follows methodological naturalism. Religion, mostly speaking, does not. If you want, it can. I have to say that it can. If you want to be like a deist, who, like I said, I have this is the non-overlapping magisteria thing of Stephen Jay Gould, where he's like, well, okay, you could have belief, faith in something supernatural outside of naturalism, right? Outside of methodological naturalism, but within the realm of science, you could follow pure methodological naturalism. Sure, you can do that, but then you're saying you have to keep science and religion absolutely separate.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you cross the streams, then you are that's philosophically invalid, because again, philosophically they are mutually incompatible, right? Believing in something without a naturalistic chain of cause and effect violates the naturalism of the scientific method.
Yeah, and
you can't say, and then a miracle happens.
But
you're not doing science anymore.
I think the thing that you hit on, Steve, was that he was very calculated in the way that he said
very
it.
careful.
He was very careful, but the subtext inside of what he was saying, again, was this book, look at this book. There's an equivalence, and there's some type of debate going on between science, religion, and naturalism, which puts religion on a very high pedestal that it cannot be on. It can't be on
and
there.
the other thing that he did that I took exception to was, again, basically spending 45 minutes, however long it was, saying, look how awesomely complicated and awesome the flagella is. Now, in the context of the flagellum, the bacterial flagellum is like the poster child for irreducible complexity. That is the example that, I forget the name of the guy, but like the intelligent design, proponents.
Something like a bear, something like that. I'll look at it.
It'll hit me.
Boo Bear?
But that they use as like, this is like the best example we have of irreducible complexity. So presenting like, look how awesome and complex this is, and people talk about how awesome. Behe, right. This challenges your thinking about how things, like he basically is just dancing around it in no uncertain terms without coming right out and saying it. And then he does say that, scientists, are investigating, where it could have come from. And he talks about the secretin, that the fact that there are similar structures in bacteria that are essentially ways of injecting toxins into prey, right? So it's like the bacterial flagella but can't move. So it's like a stinger instead of a flagella. Now, of course, they're not identical because they're separated by millions of years of, hundreds of millions of years of evolution. But the point is, again, he doesn't give the real scientific answer to how could something so complex have arisen. Does each component have an advantage for the bacteria? You know what I mean? Like, he raises that question without ever answering it. The answer is, structures can evolve from things that existed for a different purpose. So like, for example, the same thing exists, again, I think a really good, conceptually, a good example that helps people wrap their minds around this is bird feathers and bird wings. Because you could say, what good is a bird wing until you get to the point that you can fly, right?
Yeah, but it could do a lot of things. It could protect it from
That's
weather.
the point. It could do a lot of things other than flying. But right, so again, creation is what good is half a wing? Well, let me tell you what good half a wing is. Again, the unstated major premise there is that until you cross over that threshold to flying, there's no evolutionary advantage. But we know that feathers can perform thermal regulation, right? So they could be that. They could be a display for multiple reasons, for a mating display or predatory display, intimidation, whatever. They could also be used for gliding, for just extending the distance that you can jump, and then they could be used for us, dropping down from a tree and slowing the descent. So a predator dropping on top of a prey and using them to sort of control the guide, or just to physically trap prey, for example. And then you get to the point where you have these feathers that have evolved that have an evolutionary advantage every step of the way because they're doing these other things, but they get to a point where you can just sort of barely use these to sort of fly, and then once you get on that track, now you have evolutionary pressures optimizing it for this new thing that you're using it for.
It happens to be there, and then of course if there's a benefit.
So it's the same thing. So did the flagella exist in simpler forms that served another purpose, that provided these evolutionary stepping stones to the full flagella? And again, was the first flagella like a really crappy flagella that just barely provided an evolutionary advantage? Probably, right? So we have plausible pathways. We haven't reverse engineered every step of the way that evolution actually worked, because we're talking about proteins that evolved hundreds of millions of years ago. But just like we haven't reverse engineered the evolutionary pathway for every single structure down to an arbitrary level of detail, right? Nor should we, nor is it reasonable that at this point in the scientific progress we will have done that. But it's philosophically improper to say, therefore, the door's open for God, right? That is literally the God of the gaps argument, right? Where you're saying, there are gaps in our knowledge, I'm going to fill those gaps with God. It's like, well, that's an argument from ignorance. It's a specific example of the argument from ignorance. You can't fill a gap in knowledge with any particular answer that you want. All we could say is, we could say a number of things, but we could say that, well, evolution as a hypothesis, right, as a theory, provides one explanatory framework for what we're seeing in nature, and it has a tremendous amount of predictive and explanatory power. It works. Every testable claim that it makes turns out to be true in terms of just did stuff evolve, not necessarily every specific pathway of evolution. And this is the same thing. So keep in mind that the intelligent design proponents, who are just creationists, their point was to say evolution's impossible, right? That it's impossible because of the irreducible complexity. Their argument failed. It is wrong. It is demonstrably wrong. They have not proven evolution impossible. Therefore, their whole argument is worthless. It's complete, right? They failed to achieve the argument they set out to achieve. But just saying that, now retreating to sort of a lesser argument, this again like sort of a Mott and Bailey kind of approach, where you try to make them boldest, like we've disproven evolution in a single stroke. Failing that, they say, well, evolutionists haven't proven every step of the way. It's like, well, but that's different than what you were originally claiming.
And as time goes by, if you go back 30 years, or, the amount of things that they were able to claim, God did it, has been chipped away at.
It's been chipped away at.
And, at some point you have to go, well, I can easily project into the future that it'll continue.
Right. It's the change over time, right? I mean, if evolution were not true, then all of the predictions that flow from evolution would not have been shown to be true over the last 100 years.
But isn't it an on or off switch, Steve? This is the part I don't get. You can't have partial evolution and partial God did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you can't. But in what context?
What doesn't make sense to me is once we realize, okay, we can prove that evolution is happening, and we have so many examples, and in so many different ways, down to the tiny infinitesimal, all the way up to giant dinosaur bones. We know that it happened and that it is continuing to happen. So therefore, any other explanation, God
It's unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
It's become void at this point.
Yeah.
And the thing that troubles me is we have a science communicator who I've enjoyed many of his videos, and I'm like, I don't want to judge the guy. You know, he's got a religion. That's just his business and everything. It's just always when his ball gets kicked over into my playing field that I get a little upset about it, because it's like, you know, you've done all this good work and you have a lot of great videos on there, and you probably turned a lot of people onto science. But you know, but you have this little
sacred cow.
You have a little sacred cow here that you now are bringing up, and it kind of spoils.
Well, he says think critically, but he didn't give his audience the tools to think critically about this very question.
Yeah.
And if you didn't already know the context and you watched his video, you would come away with a misconception about the state of the philosophy and the logic and the science and the evidence. Yeah, there is. He says people are just going, what people? Not scientists. There is no debate within science about this. It's not like the scientists are saying, I wonder if this could have evolved. No, it's like we already have evolutionary explanations that we can bring to bear on this, and we are filling in the details as we go. And it's working out just fine, thank you.
Yep.
We don't need to introduce any extraneous, hypotheses like some kind of miracle creation.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing. The one example I use is the light fairy. You know, this is an example of something that's just unnecessary. Is it wrong? No, you can't prove it's wrong because you're basically invoking a miracle. That's kind of the point. It's not science because you can't prove it wrong, but it's just unnecessary. Yeah. It's like saying, when I flip the switch on, a fairy flies over there and turns the light on. And it's like, well, you know, you can't prove the light fairy doesn't exist, and it does explain how everything happens, but it's just unnecessary because the light would go on without the existence of a fairy.
Look, lots of scientists believe in God, you know.
Yeah, which is fine. Again, if you have that, if you keep them separate. Your peanut butter out of my chocolate, it's fine.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
But the point is, though, like, imagine this, visualize this. You have a bunch of engineers or scientists or whatever, and they're developing something. Let's say the people that came up with the computer processor, right? And their miniaturization, and they're at a point where, like, wow, this is amazing, you know. And then some guy goes, well, what about God? You know, it's like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about that. That is a separate thing, right?
Yeah. So Ben asks in the chat, so basically, what is irreducible complexity?
I saw that.
So there's a very specific operational definition for it that the intelligent design people have. It's basically a interdependent structure, right? Some kind of complex structure that could not function if it were any simpler, right? Mm-hmm. So like it's like a mousetrap, which is the example that he gives also, Behe's mousetrap. So like a mousetrap has a certain number of components. If you take any one of those components away, it does not function. Mm-hmm. Therefore, how could it have evolved? You would need to have all of those pieces would need to have come together at the same time, which is just statistically unlikely. And you can't select for, like, again, one piece of a mousetrap because it serves no survival advantage because it's non-functional. But of course, what they're missing is that, well, sure, if you're assuming that it had to evolve straight from nothing to a mousetrap, but that's not how evolution works. It could have evolved first as just a platform, right? And then maybe you add a lever which serves some other purpose, whatever. And then at some point, you have all the pieces there which serve other purposes, like the wing, right? The wings could serve other purposes, and then all the pieces are there where you just need one more piece, or you just need one kind of arrangement or whatever, and then it could function. It could be what's called co-opted to some other use, some other function. Mm. And then once you start using it that way, then that introduces new selective pressures to fine-tune it for that new structure. Then you start to see a recognizable mousetrap.
And I think a common blind spot that a lot of people have is they don't. We as humans can't easily wrap our heads around, millions of years.
Part of it is that multicellular life has been evolving for over 500 million years. It's just a ridiculously long period of time. And bacteria for billions of years. We can't wrap our head around that. And also the number of of individual creatures that would have lived in that time. Like, yeah, what are the chances that this would have arisen by chance alone?
Small, yeah, but
really tiny, but given enough time, even really fabulously unlikely things will happen.
Yeah.
Everything will happen, essentially, given enough time. If it's possible to fill that space, it will fill it. So yeah, just you have to understand the implications of deep time, as it is called, but also, people are stuck, I think, in very simplistic thinking about evolution, a lot of which is basically driven by creationists, right, who are sort of encouraging this simplistic thinking, but also it's just, not great science education. They think that structure A evolved for a purpose, right? What is the purpose of that structure, that thing? That what are teeth for? Is it for ripping flesh or whatever? It's like, well, one structure does not have to have one function. It can have multiple functions. And again, life finds a way, I think, is a much better catchphrase here. It's like saying, what's your hand for? You just to pick something that's obviously multifunctional, right? It's like, well, what did the hand evolve for? As if it evolved for one and only one thing. It's obviously a multi-purpose tool that we can use for a lot of things. Or what did bipedalism evolve for? It's like, well, that's kind of an unanswerable question, because there was probably many evolutionary pressures, pushing in the direction of bipedalism. It's like a new strategy that has a different set of strengths and weaknesses of feedbacks, and it's kind of like more, it's good to think about like islands of stability in evolution. Like you find a strategy that works, and there's a host of things that change for that strategy. So you have like a bipedal strategy, like once you tip over into that, then that causes a whole bunch of changes, and again, there's multiple advantages, but also some disadvantages, et cetera, et cetera. Just like when you tip over into, all right, now we're gonna shift into a strategy where we're flying in order to hunt for food or escape predators, and that has massive advantages, but massive disadvantages too. So then evolution tinkers to optimize the whole organism for this new strategy that's happening. That's a better way to think about evolution than this one piece of anatomy evolved for this one specific purpose. Animals use things, creatures use things, living things use things for multiple purposes, right? And we're constantly jerry-rigging and, doing things that are imperfect. And, it's like, did we evolve chins to put pillowcases on pillows? No, but they work for that.
Yeah.
We use things for other things that they were not initially intended for. And if that somehow, if like putting pillowcases on pillows became a survival necessity, our chins would be optimized for putting pillowcases on pillows or whatever. Yeah.
Hey, Phil Hudson just dropped in. Hey Phil, what's up, man?
What's up? A lot of old friends popping up in the chat.
Right? All right, so Steve.
Yes.
Basically what you're saying is, I don't want to blaspheme him right now.
He missed the boat.
He basically, did his typical level of science coverage,
which was great. Like the 95% of just like, here, let's talk to the scientists who did the latest research and have made a more detailed image down to the protein amino acid level of how this structure is working. That was great. And I learned stuff watching that. It was good.
Yep.
But then the philosophical talk before and at the end was biased and left out the actual answers and really missed the boat on what the situation is and misinformed his audience.
Yes, there you go.
That's the bottom line.
Thank you.
But he could be forgiven for that to some extent. This is a complicated area, but as long as he learns, I hope he takes this feedback constructively and says, okay, maybe this was not optimal. There is, this could have done a better job.
It's a hard thing to do. I mean, imagine,
especially when your faith is involved.
Yeah, if you have to certain people, faith is incredibly important, and they want to justify it. I mean, their life depends on it. So I get it.
Speaking of learning new things,
Yes.
so according to Giordano's, most coal-cooked pizzerias use anthracite coal because it has a higher carbon content.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not charcoal, and anthracite is
Yeah, it's a type of.
Carboniferous period around 300 million years
All right,
ago.
yeah, I
So
know. I
it's cool.
stand corrected.
there
I
you
didn't
go.
know.
You know, I'm just saying.
All right, that's
sacred
fine.
cows and stuff. No,
No, I'm just
kidding. I'm kidding.
just going
I'm
on
kidding.
like a memory. I didn't know. It's fine. Yeah,
It does seem
coal-fired
crazy.
ovens for pizza. Sure.
Yeah, it does seem crazy to cook it with coal in a way because we think of it so dirty. Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like-
It seems exactly that. It seems so dirty.
it's like- but apparently, this anthracite coal is pretty dense and pure.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means.
Doesn't have as much sulfur in it. I guess.
I guess not. Yeah.
Somebody
Comes from
asked.
Pennsylvania too.
Somebody asked, like, how is he receiving this feedback? I'm not sure what you're saying. You're saying, like, what's his reaction to the feedback? I
People in chat were saying that they viewed like the last couple hundred comments and there was no pushback necessarily in creationism, but about creationism under his comments, which doesn't mean that he's necessarily deleting them, but it could be the ones that are upvoted are not necessarily critical of his views. I mean, there's something. Biologist here. This is the part where I see many people making the wrong assumption. The flagella in a sperm is completely different from the rotating flagella
That's correct.
in bacteria.
Yeah. So they were just correcting one little
One
bit of
little bit,
misinformation
yeah.
that equating the bacterial flagella with the flagella of a sperm. They actually work completely differently. They're the product of independent lines of evolution. The bacterial sperm is more of a side-to-side motion. It's
Right.
not a rotator.
okay.
I mean,
That's
I
just
searched
an
for-
irrelevant detail for
Yeah.
the discussion, but just if you're going to be pedantic.
Yeah, I just searched for God and creationism, so nothing really popped up. But I mean, we got a bunch of emails about it, but of course, because come on.
All right, let's move on to the next
Anyway,
topic.
Moving on to the next topic.
Could do the
so
other God video.
We could do the other God video.
What about Olympics? The Olympics one, huh?
We could. That's such. I mean, okay.
We could
It's
briefly
short.
comment
Let's
on
do
it.
it quick. Okay, here we go. So
It's just dumb.
Dun, dun,
it's so
dun.
crazy. So if you didn't watch the Olympic opening ceremony, first off, Celine Dion was great. So you should watch it just for that. She also had that, I think, stiff person disease. So like she's
I think
Oh,
he had
yeah?
Graves'
trying to
disease.
overcome. Is it Graves?
I think that's what
Those
she
are
has.
two totally
Those are
different.
different.
things.
No, I think stiff because she gets locked up. Like
That's
she
stiff
can't.
person.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stiff
it's.
person
I
syndrome.
don't.
It's pretty
I never
debilitating.
liked her. I'm sure she's
What?
a nice person. I just whatever. I don't
You
know.
don't like her music, or just like?
No, the music. I don't care about who she really is. That's irrelevant.
Are you
to
just
me.
sad that the Titanic sunk?
Whatever. God, if I hear that song one more time, I'm gonna punch myself in the face. But
She did good. I will say you should listen to her. She sings this like French song. I think
it's like,
pretty
come
awesome.
on, come on.
All right, fine.
Enough
Not
already. I
into
got
it.
it.
All
I
right,
got
all
it.
right, all right. Anyway, here back to
That's like it's
Satanism.
stuck in my head.
we're gonna get DMCA'd. Here we
There
go.
we go.
Let's- Satanism. Here we
The
go.
Olympic opening ceremony is extremely
You know it's legit when they use that voice and also
Of
the
course,
music.
that's the
It's like
music.
that is the music. Okay. Here.
disturbing and demonic. Here's why. The theme of the event is very symbolic and strange. Firstly, there was a recreation of the Last Supper using these people who dress extremely provocative.
So I mean they're drag queens.
They're
so
drag
like
queens,
yeah, and
Drag Queen Last Supper. Yeah.
right, and also apparently it's not the Last Supper. It's the Feast of Dionysus.
Mm-hmm.
Dionysus, whatever. The Greek god
Yeah,
of
I
like
mean, look,
wine or whatever.
clearly there is a similarity, and the intent might have been there, whatever. But who cares?
Right.
Why
But there's
would
a lot of apophenia going on here,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that people are good at reading into things,
Mm-hmm.
seeing patterns. And so, like Ian says, this is the Feast of Dionysus. They see the Last Supper. Why do they see the Last Supper? Because they're Christian, and that's what they know, and so
Yeah.
they see what they know,
Yeah.
and that's how they interpret it. And the other thing is, it's like it's not as if Christian mythology came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That
I know. Like, wonder
it's
where those ideas
basically
came from.
derivative of Greek philosophy, and you know what I mean, and all of the legends that we now think of as the New Testament predated the New Testament. It was all there. All the pieces pre-existed. This was just the mythology of the time and place.
I know, but
Yeah.
Steve, let's call it like it is. The trans button was pressed,
Yeah,
and they
that's
don't
true.
Yeah.
like it. They can't wrap their head around it. They can't understand that those are people that have lives, and they want to be happy and do what they do that makes them happy. And for some reason, they don't want those people to have lives.
Mm-hmm.
They want them to go away. And I
Also,
love
this is France. Like,
no, but I
come
love.
on.
Yeah, but I
You know what
love
I mean?
that they
Like-
did it. I love it. It's like,
yeah,
you know
it's
what?
good.
Like, we just got to
So
keep
it's-
thumbing our nose
yeah.
at that. Like, whatever. Go ahead. You could complain about what you think your God wants or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're going to go on living our lives, and we're going to go on appreciating ancient Greece and all these other cultures because they're awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it. It's like, you know what? Just go circle jerk. You know what I mean? Let us do what we're doing and get out of here.
Like what the video does is I'm sure that it is very symbolic. I'm sure the whole thing is symbolic. But they take all of the symbolism, which, my understanding is it was a celebration of like ancient Greece, because the Greek Olympics, this is where they originated, and a lot of the different countries that are participating in it. But they filter everything through the lens of Christianity, and specifically Satanism. Like everything becomes a symbol of Satan. You know what I mean? And I've heard this from Christians my whole life. I remember there was. What was that song? It was
What if God was one of us?
No,
Oh.
no, nothing so obvious.
Oh, this is interesting,
Sorry.
Steve. Somebody said France has been trolling Christians for centuries. I mean, if that's true, if that's true,
Maybe.
then I could see a little bit of that. And here, sure, that's great.
France is a Catholic country, though. But
Yeah,
it was like
but
it was
they-
the
yeah, it's kind of-
song about they say like rolling like thunder in the bed or whatever. It's like
Oh.
thunder. That's the devil. It's like you think every reference to thunder is the devil now because within your narrow sect of one religion.
That's an Elton John song.
Yeah,
right?
Elton John. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying
I
to
was
think of.
like, what is the
Rolling
song?
like thunder.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like, it's a bull. The bull means Satan.
Oh, my
It's like,
God, the
whatever.
bull,
It
yeah.
also means a million other things.
Yeah.
You know
Also
what I
means
mean?
a bull, which they get to here, of course.
This
So
is
it's,
very disrespectful to Jesus Christ and Christianity. The Olympic received so much
It's actually, if anything, disrespectful to what, Da Vinci? Because didn't he paint The Last Supper? Did he paint The Last Supper? So it's like, why would it be anyway? Whatever.
No,
backlash for
Michelangelo.
this.
Vinci or Michelangelo?
Oh,
Michelangelo.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
That they have to take the video down. Not only that, a bull head was being displayed on the stage. And for those of you who don't know, in the Bible, it represents devil worshipping. Also, near the Eiffel
Or
Tower.
Wall Street. You
Yeah,
know.
Wall
whatever
Street,
is more likely.
Yeah.
Was it devil worshipping? I thought it was just false god. Well, I guess
It was the
it's-
false idol.
Yeah, false idol. Okay.
Yeah, but here's a myopic.
The goat head is more.
This
of a-
is the
Yeah.
myopic view on reality.
Oh, that's
Like
good.
Steve said, it's like
Oh,
a
Da
bull.
Vinci
It's got to
was
mean this. It's got to mean
Thanks,
this.
Jack.
Well, what if the person what if the creative director of the Olympics this year, what if that person just happens to like it visually? You know what I mean? There's so many other explanations other than malfeasance.
Right.
Mhm.
The other thing is, this reminds me of Nostradamus, right? Because Nostradamus apparently predicted everything, because and this study was done where they basically took Nostradamus predictions, quatrains, and they showed them to people who were expert historians in different world history, like they're an expert in Chinese history, expert in Occidental history, whatever, and they were equally able to align the prediction with something that happened in
course,
their area
yeah.
of history. Because, we're good at pattern recognition, especially if the input is vague.
Yeah, it's vague
So this
enough.
is the same thing as if you look at all of this through one lens, then yes, you will see it. You can find a connection to something, and especially if you're willing to have some loose criteria.
Somebody in the chat said it apparently annoyed Muslim leaders, including the Ayatollah. Yeah, I mean, sure,
Erdogan,
because
Erdogan.
we're living in a world that is becoming more and more and more diverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like humans are spreading out and doing more different things. Like it's not, the concept of a uniculture is ridiculous anyway. You know what I mean? Like there's a massive differences from country to country in what people think and believe and eat and everything. But, what we're seeing is we're seeing the tolerance levels going down to the point where like we can't even have an Olympics celebration.
Well, I think it's just the internet is made for outrage.
Yeah.
That's what drives clicks. This is just manufactured outrage. It's nonsense. In fact, we should move on to the next.
Let's
topic.
do it. Okay.
Move the next topic. Or
Yeah.
move the, okay,
Still,
yeah.
Steve detected that I was about to start yelling, so we're gonna move on.
Let's
Yeah,
not
there's like pale horse stuff. It's
Oh,
like all
white
that
horse,
stuff.
forget
It's
it.
White
like-
horse only means one thing. It's the
Right.
pale horse from
Pale horse
the
from
apocalypse.
It offended Jesus. What do you mean? What?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? It offended Jesus.
Sharon said there's a fairly popular restaurant in my neighborhood that's not showing the Olympics because they said it's anti-Christian.
Oh, right.
Mm.
Yeah.
I said because Jesus wasn't into swimming. Get it?
Mhm.
Because he
Yeah,
walked
yeah,
on the water.
yeah.
Yeah, he hated water.
He was hydrophobic.
Jesus hated
Hydrophobic.
water.
Jesus is hydrophobic.
He did.
He's hydrophobic. Okay, there are some cool things about the Olympics, though. I don't know if you've ever seen the shooters, like the Olympic shooters. They like hit like a tiny dime-sized target, but they just look so cool. I don't know if you have seen this. I'm gonna shut off the music.
That is so cyberpunk, man.
Like, look at how cool that looks. I don't know. Their fits are awesome, and the way they stand is so interesting because it's like, I guess it's just to maintain perfect accuracy.
Yeah.
Scientifically
Still as
developed
possible,
it.
Completely
man.
still.
Yeah, but it's very cool. The blinder and everything.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
wouldn't mess with any of them.
No, I definitely wouldn't. She's the cool. I mean, she's like, she also, I think, hit the world record just recently. Anyway,
They'd be great at Fortnite.
if they stand, yeah. Well, standing still is not completely
Steady hands,
part
man.
of it.
Steady hands.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be cool to have like a movie about an assassin who shot that way. Like, use
If
that
there's an
Olympic
anime is
style.
not made off of this, like
Yeah,
they're missing.
that is
the
a
point.
very anime.
I've
pose.
already,
Right?
I've already seen that. It's
Yeah,
got. I
it's
wonder
like-
which came first. You know, that's interesting.
Right? Did they base it off of?
Yeah.
The entire world.
All right, we could go to Logan Paul, infamous.
I like the other one better.
Which one?
This one's kind of stupid. We could do this one.
Okay.
I'm
which
going to do
one?
the other one. We do is a formal TikTok. No, I think we're just going to chat about it.
Is it this
People
guy?
don't even talk about
No,
it.
that one I'm
No.
going to talk about. And I'm going to do a TikTok about that one.
Okay.
Oh wait.
The other Logan one.
Oh, I think you said. Yeah, I put it
Logan,
in the
man.
other. Let me find it right here.
Where he's like actually asking good questions.
Right. Yeah. So Logan is kind of a notorious bad boy of the internet, dingbat, scammer, all kinds of things. That did a bunch of bad stuff. But anyway, he's on his podcast.
Is there
and
a
he's
chance?
talking to this guy, which I didn't look up his name, but he's a popular street preacher. He's like, he goes to a bunch of colleges and
Yeah,
like
he's
does that thing.
He's a jerk off.
Yeah, basically. So, but here Logan is asking some interesting questions.
Is there a chance that Jesus did exist, but he was a frickin' genius, a marketer, an orator, a storyteller, maybe even a little crazy, so much so that people really believed what he did. He even believed what he did when he was the son of God. You mentioned earlier, some schizophrenics will say, I'm Jesus. I'm not saying Jesus was a schizophrenic, but is there a chance he really thought he was this thing and was smart enough to be capable of these things? I will liken it to, and I don't want to sound blasphemous
You're
here.
not called Jesus Neo from the Matrix, right?
No. Just like you see prominent figures today rise up and have a cult following. They call it a cult following and oftentimes you watch these cult leaders. They're low-key geniuses. They're master manipulators. They can orate well. And by the way, like half of convincing people is just your ability to articulate your thoughts. And so, like,
When's the last time Trump walked on water? When's the last
I'm not
time
talking about
Trump walked
Donald
on
Trump.
water? I know what you're trying to do right now, bro.
It's just a question.
Yeah,
Because I'll follow this up with another question that actually gets into a little bit more like logically, tactically about the timing in which Jesus rose. But that isn't even a possibility in your mind that he was just a master at speaking and convincing?
No, because nobody recanted, none of the apostles or disciples or the eyewitnesses, nobody. And we would have to be saying, based off of the resurrection, and then all of a sudden the persecution that all of these disciples and eyewitnesses went through, they were dying for what they knew to be a lie. Very different.
But what? Can you pause it?
No.
What do we actually know about?
Well,
what,
yeah.
because-
That's the problem with the entire discussion. The entire discussion has a massive unstated major premise, and that is that the story that is told in the New Testament is essentially correct, right? Like he's talking about, what about those eyewitnesses? No eyewitnesses ever recanted. No, there are no eyewitnesses in the New Testament, meaning that we have no historical eyewitness testimony of Jesus, of anything that happened. Everything was written down 2 generations later.
What about Josephus?
We could talk about this. Now we're getting to the
I know,
historicity
getting into the-
of
right.
Jesus, which I am not convinced by the evidence that exists that Jesus, as depicted in the New Testament, existed. I don't think we can confidently conclude that. Historians who say that he did exist have 2 main arguments, neither of which I feel are compelling. One is that, well, if the story were made up out of whole cloth, they wouldn't have crucified their Savior because that's like a really disrespectful way to die. The other one was, well, the whole reason why Jesus went to Bethlehem in the New Testament
Was to meet George Robb.
or whether why Mary and Joseph
Bethlehem.
went to Bethlehem to give birth to Jesus was for the census. And they did that because they had to retcon basically the fact that this guy was from Nazareth, but the Savior, Messiah, had to be born in Bethlehem. Now, if this weren't based on a real person, they would just have had him live in Bethlehem. They wouldn't have said, well, he was from Nazareth, but parents had to go to Bethlehem for a census, and Mary had Jesus while they were there. So why the retconning? But I think that's a naive argument, a naive line of argument, because again, it's assuming that the story was made out of whole cloth at one time by one person or group from nothing as the only other option. So it's kind of a false dichotomy.
No, but also, like,
as
you-
opposed to
Sorry.
this was woven together from multiple stories and sources.
Thank you. That's what I was
the
gonna say.
creation of mythology is messy. Things get, and they get retconned all the time. I mean, you think of modern mythologies and how they've evolved, even if it's like the Marvel universe, how the stories evolve. It's like there is not one clean story.
And there's a lot of things that were left out.
I don't find that a compelling argument. And if you take those arguments away, what we're left with is there's no evidence that he actually existed. There's no contemporary eyewitness reports. It's really easy to put the story together. It's like, yeah, this guy just kind of made it up. And everything else kind of just flowed organically from that. Like, it's a story.
But think about this too. Like, visualize a bookcase filled with 1,000 books.
Yeah.
And visualize somebody going up to that bookcase going, I'll take this one, I'll take this one,
Right.
I'll take this one. You know, like,
Right.
you know, when you think about all the other texts that were written, like,
Well, you're jumping ahead 300 years when basically the Roman emperor, I'm forgetting his name, decided to make Christianity the official religion of Rome. And he said, and these four books are canon.
Yeah.
Right? And now all other books about Jesus are heresy, and we're going to destroy them.
well,
right?
yeah, they're not in. They're outside of the what do they call it?
Canon.
It's outside the canon. Some of it were fan service, right?
Fanfic.
Fan fiction.
Yeah, but like the
Well,
book.
no, there were lots of books written about Jesus. Some of them are wildly incompatible with what we now have as the New Testament. So there was basically, they said these four, they're kind of similar to each other. We're going to pick these four. This is canon. Everything else is blasphemy. That was just a choice. But there's no reason to think that the book of Judas was any less, reliable than the book of Matthew or
Yep.
John. And they're completely incompatible with each other. They say they read wildly different stories about Jesus. And then even in that conversation, like one of the people sort of defending, the reality of Jesus is saying, there were 100 prophets walking around at that time. Why is this the guy that, a quarter of the world or whatever worships today? It's like, all right, but flip that around a little bit, right? There were 100 messiahs walking around the Middle East at that time, all with sort of the same story. Why did one story emerge? And so there's, right? So why not? Why wouldn't one story emerge as sort of the canon, right? Because that's kind of how things work. And so think about it this way. There were 100 false prophets walking around the Middle East at that time, but this one guy was real?
Yeah.
Why was one guy real and the other 100 not real?
Do you think
You know?
Jesus, if Jesus were real, do you think he went up to the other ones and like got into fistfights with them?
Well, why would God say, I'm going to send my prophet there into that middle of all these fake
All that
prophets,
noise, yeah.
all that noise right in the middle of it? And again,
Make it as complicated as possible, Steve.
the other thing is like all of the elements, not the details, because again, the details are quirky and this is how messy stories evolve. But if you look at the broad brushstrokes of you have a person who's part God, part man, who shows up to save humanity by sacrificing themselves, and then they sort of rise from the dead at the end. They had sort of some kind of magical birth at the beginning and some kind of resurrection at the end. That story was told over and over again long before Jesus was supposed to have existed.
The virgin birth, the immaculate conception, the idea of angels, all of this stuff, and so much more, predates Christianity.
Right.
And if you read the book of...
It's like somebody saying that they're a real Marvel superhero.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's like, all right, yeah, all these other ones, that's just the stories, but I'm actually a real superhero that's, you know, sort of like Superman, but I have some other little details that are a little bit different. On my own, like, you know, basically you take all of the pre-existing elements of superheroes, you mash them together, and you make a new one that, yeah, it's unique in that that particular combination of details was never mashed together before, but basically it's completely consistent with the modern superhero mythology,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And to say that, yeah, but that guy, you know, that guy was real. All the other ones, that was just storytelling, right? But that was just fake. But this guy, which happens to follow along with the pre-existing story of superheroes, he was real. And we know about him because people 100 years later, or 60 years later, said whatever, right? People 2 generations later wrote about him as if he were real. Or we don't, you know, even though they don't explicitly say he was real, they wrote about him in a way that you can interpret as, well, they could be talking about a real person here.
Ever see The Last Temptation of Christ?
Yes.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Willem Dafoe?
It's a really quirky movie, right? It's odd, and it has a very odd feel to it. But there's one thing that happens in the movie that I think is like pretty cool. Like there was a guy, I don't want to ruin the movie, but basically it was
It's like
30 years old. You can
yeah.
spoil it.
Oh, all right, so I know, but there's a lot. It's a new generation out here. So basically,
Spoilers.
Jesus,
Oh.
when he's on the cross, the devil comes as a child angel to him
Yeah.
and is trying to seduce him to not fulfilling his destiny to
Right.
die on the cross.
Yeah.
So Jesus gets off the cross, walks away with this angel, and lives an entire life as a man.
Right.
And then later in his life, he meets a guy who is preaching Jesus' gospel. And the conversation between the two of them was so interesting because he's like, oh, you are a fraud. He's saying, this is the guy saying to Jesus, you are a fraud, and I'm glad I met you. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
he's like, because it kind of demystified the whole thing for me. And I'm saying what I think, and I'm making money doing this or whatever. It's like, you know, and knowing that you're basically bullshit makes what I'm doing feel less bad. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
right,
I thought
right.
that was such a cool thing to happen in the movie. Yeah, and of course, Grimbeard says that it's a spoiler, but he does die at the end.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool movie.
Then he comes back.
I'll tell you what, like I like the mythology. I am entranced by it. I think it's amazing.
I
There's
mean,
a lot
because it's part of our culture. It's part
Yeah.
of, you know.
yeah, I like
And
it.
again,
It's,
like,
it's
you think about
interesting.
like the Christian philosophy, do unto others, you know, turn the other cheek, all of that. That's Greek philosophy, man. That's all there. It pre-existed Christianity.
Oh, you can't prove that.
He didn't invent all of that. That's the other thing. It's like, yeah, anyway, you know, to me, it's the simplest explanation is this was the mythology of the time and place. This is what emerged out of it. You know, it explains why there were so many conflicting different gospels, you know, or stories. It explains everything, you know, very economically. There's no smoking gun evidence that he actually existed. But they're saying like Trump never walked on water. Yeah, but you know, that's only, you know, interesting if you are already assuming that the details in the Bible are literally true, as opposed to just being stories. So the whole conversation is a non sequitur in a way.
You know, Iron Man sacrificed himself for the multiverse,
did.
Steve. And I'll tell
Spoilers.
you what, there was a glow around that guy.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
saw it. I watched that movie 3 times.
Yeah.
I saw the glow. He's my God.
And guess what? Now he's Doctor Doom.
That's right. He's resurrected.
He's resurrected as Doctor Doom.
Come on, man. It's all there.
Uh,
Next topic.
He does go on to some interest. They do believe in UFOs, which is kind of
Yeah,
funny.
that was
to
actually a
ask
really
them.
insightful question from him. You know, he's saying, because if you're applying the same, you know, logic and level of evidence and everything, like they're just saying, well, how could so many eyewitnesses be wrong? Again, we don't know. We don't have any eyewitnesses.
Right.
Hello, or they never recanted. Who never recanted? Who were you talking about? These are, you know, mostly fictional people. Or, you know, the people who really did exist at the time these Bibles were being written. Yes, they were cult leaders. That's
Steve,
what they
I
were
wouldn't be
doing.
surprised if the guy that said that wasn't aware that the people who wrote the Gospels were not part of Jesus' crew. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
well, there wasn't even a Jesus' crew.
Yeah.
Again, the whole thing is based upon visions by, was it John? 40, 50?
40, yeah, a
yeah,
couple generations
afterwards. You know, it's all a vision. It was all
Yeah.
just, I saw it in a vision. But anyway,
In the book of Enoch, Enoch claims that he went to heaven and saw angels in their true form and all that stuff.
yes, which is also another very common story element.
But
Also think about like if you think about the Mormons and
Hmm.
Joseph Smith and the Golden Tablets and
man.
the whole thing. It's the same thing. That was just a modern mythology that we saw in very recent history evolving from some crank making up ridiculous stories, and now he's a major world religion. 200 years later, whatever. That's
Give it 1,000 years. It'll
give Scientology another couple of
Yes.
100 years,
Yeah.
and who knows? You know what I mean? It'll go from a crazy science fiction cult to a major religion. Maybe. Who knows? These things are quirky. You can't really
get
predict
me started.
Don't get me started. All right, so that's that on that one. Pretty interesting. Okay, so we do have some other things before we get to maybe some of the tickety talks.
Formal TikTok.
Formal
Tick-tock,
TikToks.
tick-a-tick-tock.
We have this Joe Rogan therapy
Oh,
thing. I
Joe.
don't know if you want to talk about
Bro
that.
Rogan, how you
No, I
failed
don't want to
me.
get into that
Yeah,
because the
because
whole
she goes. Yeah, I know.
yeah, I can't talk about that without going into the down a huge
Rabbit hole. I know.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that shit.
This guy is also very popular on
I'm
TikTok.
going to talk about him though on TikTok. formal
Okay, so
TikTok.
well, we'll do the series one with him.
Yeah.
And we have an air purifier at the Olympics,
That's
which is
another
pretty
one.
fun.
That's
we'll
a
do
formal
that.
TikTok
Yeah.
one.
Formal TikTok. So
and
stay
the
tuned
EMF
for that.
is the formal
and the
TikTok
EMF.
one. Those
The
are
only
the
other
three
one
I'm
that
gonna
we
do.
really have is linens.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Actually, we pretty much hit all the topics. Let me just check those.
Want to take a
topics
couple
again.
questions?
We can take some questions while y'all are here. Go ahead,
and then
hit
I'm
us
gonna
up.
do my TikTok.
We'll see, and then we'll get into the TikToks. So go ahead, chatters. If you're on Discord, also you can add us. They also have Goober chocolate now. What is it? Okay,
Goober
Goober chocolate. So if you're familiar with Smucker's Goober, it's that mixture of peanut butter and jelly in one jar. Apparently, they have a peanut butter and chocolate one.
But
So
wasn't
that's-
Goobers also like a movie theater treat?
Goobers, yeah.
Oh,
right?
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I never liked that the jelly mixed with the peanut
Yeah,
butter.
it
No,
seems
no,
a little
no.
weird.
Yeah.
No, certain
But-
things that you can't be pre-mixed. They
Yeah,
have to
you
be
can't
mixed
mixing
on the
that
spot,
together.
man.
Come on, that's like exactly.
That's why peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, when you get them in school in your lunchbox, they always smelled funny. right?
Sat on the peanut butter or the jelly too long.
Well,
and
if you
bread
don't
got
know how to
gross.
make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if you don't put peanut butter on both
Yeah, you
sides
got to put it
of
on
bread,
both slices to insulate the jelly
because
in
the
middle.
Brelly.
if the
Yeah, the brelly.
jelly sinks
Soaks
into
in
the
the bread.
bread, the
It's
bread gets
NG.
bad.
Yeah.
You know, and it could cause cancer,
Yeah.
and you don't want to do that. All right.
Goobers are chocolate covered peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Apparently
had
that's-
Goobers.
Oh, okay. I don't even know if I've had that.
Well, I mean, and Steve knows, you know.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. He knows. He knows. All right. Let's see if there's any questions.
Keith
in
Davies,
live.
what do you think about Satanic Temple? Have we talked
the
about
Satanic Temple? Like,
You mean like just the
the
group.
religion?
people who say they're part of the satanic
there, I
temple?
mean, there's ones that are like clearly atheists and skeptics, and they
Yeah.
just kind of like do it to troll
Right.
Christians. You know, like
Yeah.
they do the pink mass where they like pray over some homophobe's grave or something like that. I think they did that with the guy. What was the guy in that church down south that would like picket funerals? The Westboro Baptist Church. Like he would picket. Like he would be like God loves dead soldiers or something like really just evil kind of stuff. Anyway, they would like do things like that. But then there's also the Temple of Satan or something, and like
yeah.
they I think actually believe. I don't really know. Whatever, they're having fun. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like I guess so long as they're not hurting people, like in a way.
Every time I hear the guy, the leader of the
Oh yeah, what's his name?
he's super intelligent and he seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Yeah, something.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like
Fred Phelps.
what
was
ver-
the
I'm not
guy
sure
at
exactly what
Satanic Temple.
what version of that. I do think that
Or
there are some
Westboro.
Satanists who are just trolling Christians.
Yeah.
I think there are some who are saying that they're just sort of saying, well, we're going to interpret Satanism because it's basically as anti-religion and as a pro-rationalism, pro-science kind of philosophy. And then I think others are crazy Satanists.
Yeah.
But you know, there's all flavors. But it's all, to me, it's like I just don't like invoking religion and mythology as a belief system. You know,
It's kind of unnecessary.
yeah.
Again.
It's like the Wiccans, like we're nature, but we believe in a little bit of magic. It's
Yeah.
like, just get rid of the magic.
Yeah.
yeah, Whisper about it.
Like, you know, and the bottom line is like, I would love if there was a God If there was a good God, you know what I mean? Not one that would
Yeah.
let the
Well, it seems
horrific
like
shit happen.
he
to
wouldn't
our-
be doing much. He's kind of on vacation or something. You know?
Yeah, I
It
mean-
seems like he's tapped out.
It would be great, but you know, all signs do not point towards that, and that's the problem. Like, you know, it's hard to swallow that pill as an adult because everything that I've seen in my life and read and all of my understanding of reality tells me that there is no proof here.
Yeah.
That's it, bottom line. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we don't want it. It's not like I'm not evil. I'm not an evil person because I don't believe it.
There's a spectrum from like, no, this is not true. We know scientifically this is not true, to there's no evidence that that's true, no reason to believe it, to, well, that's not even wrong. It's unfalsifiable, just pure faith. And, you know, I don't believe in faith.
Yeah.
I want to say that. I think faith is, you know, the thing is, how do you know what to have faith in? Faith is belief without reason or logic or evidence, or, you know, you can't, if you could formulate a reason to believe something, it's not faith, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's, I believe this because the evidence and the logic supports this as the most likely answer to a question or whatever. That's not faith. That's just somewhere between philosophy and science, right? But if you believe without those things is faith, so then how do you know what to have faith in?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And some people, like, you just know, you feel it, you experience God and whatever. It's like what you do have a lot of, I think, unreasonable faith in is your own objectivity, like the functioning of your brain.
Yep.
And what you're really just reflecting is just cultural beliefs, right? That's just a circular logic of cultural beliefs supporting cultural beliefs.
You know, if most religions, Steve, didn't practice intolerance on such a level, it would be a little bit easier to be able, be one thing. Yeah, people believe it or whatever, like, but it's hostile
when
though.
People tell me they're deists, I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
But
but religion,
you do you.
A lot of popular religions have, there is the intolerance. It can be so powerful that there's evil happening.
But
You know what I mean?
it kind of goes with the territory, right? If you believe you have the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything, it's hard not to be a little self-righteous about that. It's hard not to be a little judgmental or to think, if you really think that people who don't believe what you believe are going to suffer in an eternal damnation, how can you be tolerant? It kind of goes along hand in hand with intolerance, right?
Yeah, but didn't Jesus teach them to be tolerant and turn the other cheek and all that?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It just gets so bored. I'm so bored of the whole
Right?
thing.
What did Max von Sydow in that one movie is like, if Jesus Christ were around today, he would never stop throwing up
Yeah.
at the things that are done in his name.
Yeah, of
you know?
course.
But yes, so I think Christians can be awfully unchristian. at
It's
times.
the trans thing really put a massive exclamation point on this topic for me, though. Like
what did?
the trans thing, like
Yeah.
their inability to first intellectually understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like things are so unbelievably black and white. Like you can't have the conversation. You
But
can't.
that's not purely religion. It's like
It's
they're
not purely
using
religion. There are a
religion
lot of-
as the hammer.
Yeah,
It's just like
the anti-trans
you know what I mean?
thing goes beyond.
It does. It
religion.
absolutely does.
It's like more political.
But I know
Yeah.
I'm simplifying things, but the bottom line is like that maybe we live in a modern culture of intolerance, but religion has always been intolerant.
But yeah, I mean,
To a certain- yeah.
yeah. It's just that's just the latest of a long line of targets.
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
but I'm
religious
just saying that
intolerance.
this thing, the trans people wanting rights and wanting to have a seat at the
Yeah,
table.
just dignity and basic human rights.
Right.
I mean, I was a kid when the gay thing was happening. This is like my
This
adult.
is the same thing.
It is the same
Right.
thing,
It's the
but
same
this is
thing.
my adult version of it, and I'm experiencing it in real time. And I'm like, my mouth is left wide open all the time. Like, I just can't believe that they can't wrap their head around this.
Yeah. As Ben says, the intolerance is a
That's
feature,
a great-
not a bug.
yeah,
I totally
exactly.
agree.
Yep.
It's like the book didn't fall from the sky. It came out of people who are already intolerant.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like
Right.
it's
Oh, I mean,
emblematic.
I mean, if you want, you can get into like the history of religions, and there's certainly a lot of, the beliefs were crafted in order to control women, to control
Yeah.
their bodies, to control reproduction, whatever, to keep people in line. There's absolutely is a lot of that going on.
Yeah. The
in-
will
in
for
religion.
ignorance is turned up to 10, 10 being the maximum setting.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
The true thing is that
Yeah.
Pastafarians are this flying
That's
spaghetti
right.
monster is real. Pasta exists. It has to come from a creator.
I am a
Therefore,
Pastafarian
The flying spaghetti monster is real.
because if there was any religion that worshipped meatballs,
That's the one.
even like as a secondary thing,
Yeah.
Right.
that's my jam.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All is welcome. I mean, it's like
I'm an aesthetic pasta fan.
my religion. My
just likes
religion
the
is
style.
essentially like the friendliness and love around cooking for other people and sitting around a dinner table. That's as close as my life gets to a religion. You know.
Well, again,
Yeah, it's pretty
some people say like, well, can you be spiritual without being religious? Like, I think you can.
sure.
I think spiritualism. If you step back and at its broadest sense, it's a sense of something greater than yourself. And I think that human beings, there's parts of our brain that just have the ability to have that sort of ineffable experience of I'm part of something, or there is something that transcends just the physical day-to-day drudgery of existence.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be supernatural.
Yep.
Like, to me, I get that sort of spiritual feelings like when we saw the
Eclipse.
the total eclipse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? Where it was like the universe is amazing. That's freaking gorgeous. That is like a transcendent experience. I know it's not supernatural. It's not supernatural. It's purely naturalistic, but that sort of takes you out of yourself and out of your everyday life. So the awe of the universe, the awe that science can give you of like how complex and how awesome the universe is, to me, that's a spiritual experience, or it can be in that way. I get the same kind of sense when I see people doing like extreme acts of self-sacrifice and selflessness. It's the same thing. I get that kind of feeling. Like, we're part of humanity, and human beings have the capacity for great good. To me, gives me that same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't in any way take away from the fact that this is evolved behavior, and I'm sure that there's some algorithm in there that's making them do that or whatever. Doesn't take it away from it, right? It still is that you can get this sense of community, of something bigger than yourself. And I have no problem with seeking that kind of spirituality.
I think part of us
and
needs
also
it.
having explanatory systems for how like people act and how the world works and whatever, as long as it's compatible with reason, logic, science, right? And you're not just making shit up that feels good,
But
or
Steve,
making shit up and then denying science so that your made up shit doesn't go away.
The irony of the whole thing is that Christianity, it preaches to treat people well. And all of the things that you would want in a society, it preaches it, but the people don't practice it, and it's so freaking obvious.
Yeah.
It's not like they even try to hide it. It's like,
Yeah.
I believe in Jesus and blah blah blah, and it's like, and you hate
Well, there's
trans people, you hate gay people,
I
you hate
forget
it.
the name of the book, but I was told about a book that I think encapsulates what you're talking
The
about.
Kama Sutra.
No, it's basically that it's about the American culture. Like,
Okay.
in American culture, we have shifted from Jesus Christ being the standard bearer of Christianity to John Wayne being the standard bearer of Christianity.
Yep.
Where basically we've transitioned from what you're talking about, which is, can't we just be nice to each other, but in a more thoughtful and deep way, to the sort of guns and Jesus kind of anti-everything un-American kind of Christianity.
You feeling holy?
The sort
punk?
of hyper-toxic, what do they call it, toxic masculinity version of Jesus, of Christianity.
Yep.
And that's why, like, to us who have had sort of a classic Roman Catholic, Jesuit, literally Jesuit training in Christianity, to us, it's like, this isn't freaking Christianity.
No, not
Where's
even
the
close.
where is the love? Where's the tolerance?
Yep.
Where is the turn the other cheek? Where is the self-sacrifice? Where is all of that? Rather than, again, I do think this is a very evangelical, more Southern, Baptist kind of whatever flavor of Christianity, where it's all magic, devil, judgment, kind of focusing on that end of the spectrum versus the be good to other people, end of the spectrum. So it's like doubly sickening to us, you know what I mean? Because first of all, we reject the magic and the supernaturalism, but we also reject the entire cultural vibe of this sort of evangelical John Wayne Christianity.
Yeah, because those cat ladies out there, Steve, their lives are not worth living.
Miserable.
Oh,
Their
miserable
literally, their lives are meaningless.
Oh,
because
Lord.
they do not live according to Christian values.
Yeah, like, it's like, how dare you? How dare you? People vote. That's all I'm going to say today. vote and convince everybody you freaking know to vote. I don't care what country
The
you
more
live in.
people who vote, the
just,
better.
Just vote. All right, Steve. I'm gonna let you do your TikToks.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
I forgot. I actually do have 2 other things. Let's do 2. Let's do 2 or 3 funny things.
With me or without me?
With you.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
The what thing?
What is the fastest object in the universe? Oh, no. What is the fastest man-made object? Do you guys know what the fastest
Yes.
man-made?
Isn't
what
it the Voyager?
I think so. The fastest man-made object is one of the probes.
Wrong.
you
Yes, it is a probe. It is this
Was it the Horizon one?
Parker Solar Probe.
Oh, the solar probe.
going
okay.
394,735 miles per hour. What's the second fastest thing in the universe?
Horizon?
No. Well, I don't know if it bait it out. Have you heard of the manhole cover that got launched 130,000 miles per hour?
I don't believe that.
So this was apparently an explosion under nuclear testing. That Operation Plum Bomb. They had a steel cap over a
cool.
shaft in Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico.
And it wasn't just vaporized?
They think it was vaporized in the atmosphere, but they had a high-speed camera focused
So
on
for
the
a
manhole.
moment, it was the fastest thing ever.
For like
Then it vaporized.
literally maybe a frame, and then
Yeah.
it could have potentially vaporized in the atmosphere.
Yeah, because there's no way you can get through the atmosphere at that speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's still like but apparently they were like, it probably won't hold, so let's put a camera on it and see what happens. Apparently they caught one frame of it and they could say, okay, it was approximately this
Yeah.
fast.
Jeez.
But we could replicate that on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
and
no
get
moon.
something. Use a nuclear explosion on the moon to get something to go that fast.
true. Somebody
Yeah,
said.
let's blow up the moon.
Somebody said in regards to the question, the fastest thing, me running to the bathroom after coffee.
Okay, here is another funny one, it's a chiropractor, so is it funny? Well, let's see. Here we go. Oop.
No.
Oofy. Hey.
Oh,
Literally what she's
Such
saying.
nonsense.
poor woman.
Wow, doctor. Qué linda me quedó la carita. Puedo respirar mejor. Gracias, eh.
Anyway, I just saw that.
I didn't have to know that guy's language to know exactly what he was
Right.
saying. That is awesome.
Just the gracias doctor, it killed me when
That
I
is
first saw
awesome.
that. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
That's just perfect. Oh, why is it playing that? Okay, here. This is the next thing.
All right.
Can you tell what that is just by hearing it? This is actually might be a
Sounds
good.
like a
Who's That
crocodile
Noisy?
in a toilet.
There, I'll put it on. These are Latvian deer collars. So he's using this.
Deer crawlers?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm having an emotional reaction to this.
It's something.
Yeah.
There's another guy who comes up. At
It
the
almost
end who
looks like
does
he's
something.
pulling it out of his throat. You
Yeah.
know? That guy wants to be a fire truck or something.
Yeah. I like his movement at the end.
Wow.
Eh, there you go. That's what do you want?
That's all I got. All
That's all I
right,
got.
get the
That's
hell
all I got.
out of here.
I don't know if I want it. This one's just goofy. I mean, you heard about the whole J.D. Vance stuff, like that he was intimate with couches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
that-
a
what
lot of
is all that?
conspiracies.
Oh.
Just somebody made it up. It's not
They're
true.
just making
It's
it up.
just
All right.
somebody made it up.
They're just being goofy. But although I will say this is the couch, so there's something to it.
Oh God, whoever made that,
Who made this?
you repressed motherfucker. Wow.
Oh.
How many vaginas could I put on one
Yeah,
couch of leather?
like- So if you're
Oh, my
listening to
God.
this in audio, maybe come to the YouTube and.
Oh
you can see
God,
what
help
it is.
him.
Anyway, all right. So
The
let's get
couch
to the
of vaginas,
TikToks. Yeah, that was a little goofy. All right, we're going to move
Wow.
on to the TikToks.
Now should I leave?
Yes.
Yeah, now you can.
All right, now I'm gonna go look for that couch.
You have to get out of frame.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna go. All right, guys, have a great week. Yes. Just treat each other nice, for crying out loud. Is that all? Is it so much
Just
to ask
be
for,
excellent
Steve?
to each other.
Is it? I mean, literally, in a Keanu Reeves movie, they said it. Just be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
That's all we got to do. You know? All right, I'm going to go. I might have to leave, by the way. And I'll call you if I do.
All right.
I'm sure it's probably a cloud lifter or something. Swap it out.
How long will you guys be?
I mean, it
This
depends on what
takes
it
like
is.
30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah, well. All right, let's bye. Somebody's so fussy. All right, come on. You're on the internet too much if you say that. All right, let's move on to this stuff. Which one do you want to do first?
Whatever, just hit me.
Hit me. All right, let's do the
These air
filter thing first. Here we go. Oh, yeah, let me stop.
Yeah,
this
yeah, it's
recording.
fine. Air
This one's
filter's good.
Crazy. All right, let me stop this recording. I'll restart it in just a second. Give it a second. Okay. Are we planning on doing the Friday thing? Did you get your car back? I guess I don't know if we talked about that.
My
on screen.
audio has been weird because I'm having some kind of noise on the line. I have to remove that noise, and when you do that, it distorts the audio.
Yeah, the denoiser isn't perfect.
I had to do
but-
some extreme noise removal.
Yeah, so there's a hiss.
So that's
It's
what we're
probably,
going to try to figure out where that noise is coming from.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
It always sounds good to me, though, when I listen back to it. But
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. You don't
I
have
have
one of
good
those
headphones.
denoisers on your computer natively, right? I don't think so.
I don't
Or
think so.
maybe your headphones aren't just picking it up, or you can hear it when you post it though. Okay, let me full screen this one.
These air filters.
All right, and let me just. I want to wait for this to finish remuxing, and then we'll be done. Just talking on that mic for a second.
Hello, this
Okay,
is
very
Steve.
good.
Checking 1, 2.
Steve. All right, here we go. I'm just
Yeah,
going to
so
do the
we
beginning.
stream
part.
Wednesday starting usually around noon, and Friday starting usually around 5.
Yeah.
Wednesday at noon, Friday at 5.
All right, here we go.
These air filters have the ability to clean the air of the equivalent of 40 Olympic-sized swimming pools volume per hour, providing the cleanest possible air for the athletes.
You see, athletes' performance could be in danger because the Paris region has a serious pollution problem with over 8,000 deaths a year. With a nearby highway spewing fumes into the Olympic Village, air quality experts are concerned.
It's totally crazy. It's not a good place to put the Olympic Village, it's clear.
The engineer behind these giant vacuum cleaners says his air filters suck in polluted air and filter out harmful particles.
Please start the device. You breathe the same air than if you were at the top of the Alps. Breathe.
The concept of purifying the air on a large scale came from a different hobby of Jerome's, hot air ballooning. Jerome noticed that...
All right, that's probably enough. I'm just going to... All right, we're rolling.
So can you use giant air filters to clean the air outside? That reminds me of when we were younger and we left the door open, and my father would always say, "What are we trying to do? Air conditioning the world?" But yeah, you actually can do that. It does work to some extent. Essentially, these are giant air filters. You know, they blow air through the filters. They filter out particulate matter. If they're big enough, you know, they move enough air. They can actually have an impact on the local air quality, but very local, right? You can't do this for a whole city. You certainly can't do it for a larger region. It can have an actual impact on the air quality. However, the question is, are these things effective as a strategy? So they use a lot of energy. If you're, for example, using these filters in order to remove pollution out of the air that's being created by your coal factories that are making the electricity, that's probably not effective. You're going to be just using more electricity, burning more coal, adding more pollution to the air than you're taking out with those filters. So that's not effective. But as a temporary measure, just a super local measure, they will have an effect on air quality. So the Olympics is using them to improve the air quality right in the area where the Olympics are being held, in the Olympic Village and in the sports arenas where the sports are happening. Sure, and that will have an effect. So, you know, Paris does have a lot of pollution, and so this will improve the air quality temporarily in this small region. If you may recall, back in the Beijing Olympics, China actually stopped a lot of the coal-fired plants from operating for about a year or so before the Olympics in order to improve the air quality, because you could not have held the Olympics given Beijing's air quality at the time. It was literally dangerous. You couldn't be engaging in, the sporting activities with that air. So this is not the first time that an Olympic city has taken steps in order to temporarily improve their air quality for the duration of the Olympics. But yes, it will have an effect if that is the question.
Okay, cool. Very good. Let's move on
While his
to
balloon
the
was-
next one. Let's see. Where's that one at? No. Oh, EMF.
What about the ear?
Here we go. Let's move on to some EMF fun.
Yeah.
I didn't notice harmingus. didn't fully get the I in that one. Harmingus. Record, and here we go.
What about the ear pods?
Ear pods is worse than the cell phone. It's microwave just stuck in your ear.
Damn.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. So if you look at my Beats by Dre, I actually got these EMF protectors on them. They sell EMF protector stickers, but you have to test them. I done found one that really worked. I tested it with my meter. It don't give off no frequency. When I take it off in their own, it reads like 181. But once I put the sticker on, it goes down to 3. So that's a major difference. So you have EMF stickers you can stick on these devices. Do you got? Now B got one on his phone. Let me see yours. Let me see yours. Show it to the camera. So here go one right here. If you look, this is an EMF sticker on the back of the phone. We tested them. So when the phone ring without it on, it would shoot the meter up. I got the meter off of Amazon. It was $399, but a good meter. But the moment you put the sticker on and call it, the meter go down to about 6. It's still reading, but it's not reading 300 or it's not reading 192. So you can put these on your headphones. You can put these on your phones. I got several of them on my laptop, and then I never keep this stuff on my persons at all.
That's good enough. All right, we're rolling.
We're rolling. Yeah, I guess the whole EMF is killing us thing isn't going anywhere, but here's the bottom line. There is no danger from the EMF that is in the environment, from our technology, from cell phones, for example. This is something that has been extensively studied. And in fact, any service, any device, any technology that puts out EMF has to get studied and approved to show that it's not putting out dangerous levels or dangerous frequencies. The EMF that we're using is in the what we call non-ionizing radiation range in terms of just the intensity of the radiation, the frequency, which means that it doesn't have enough energy to break a chemical bond. And that is where the actual biological harm comes from. If you have intense enough radiation that could break chemical bonds, then it can cause, degrade proteins, cause DNA mutations, DNA damage, etc. But if it's non-ionizing radiation, there's not really much of a reason to suspect that it's of any risk, any biological risk. Now, the exception there is you can have non-ionizing radiation that is very intense, that could cause tissue heating, right? So that the only real plausible harm there is from tissue heating, but that's not going to happen from your cell phone, right? It's not going to happen from the ambient EMF. That's just from the technology that we use. Yeah, don't crawl inside a microwave, basically. But just the ambient EMF from technology, there's no demonstrated or demonstrable risk to it. And in fact, it's been extensively studied and without any evidence that it's causing any harm. There is only, certain researchers have said, well, we're not 100% sure. There's still a little bit of uncertainty. Maybe there's a small risk there that we haven't really detected. And if you want to minimize your risk, you could take certain steps to minimize your exposure. So, like for example, you could use your cell phone on speaker rather than holding it up to your ear. There's no evidence that you need to do that or that, that's helpful, but that would reduce your exposure to the radiation you're getting from your cell phone. But what about these stickers? Do these anti-EMF stickers work? The short answer is no, they do not work. They have been studied by the FCC, who says they don't work. But they do basically come in two flavors. They come in stickers that literally do nothing, and ones that may actually interfere with or block the signal getting to your phone. Those are actually worse So the ones that do nothing are better. The ones that maybe they do block the signal, well, that actually interferes with your phone's ability to function, right? Of course it does. If you're blocking the signal, your phone's not going to be able to function. How does your phone respond when it's having a hard time getting a signal? It sends out more pings. So in fact, your phone is going to be putting out more EMF when you block the signal coming in. Also, think about it this way. When your phone makes a connection, like when you're receiving the signal, it's not like when you make a connection, then the signal gets then beamed to your phone. The signal is everywhere all the time. It's already there. Just blocking it from getting to your phone is not protecting you in any way from the ambient EMF. But if the phone produces a signal, that's a local source of EMF, right? So if you actually block the signal from getting to the phone, your phone is going to put out more radiation in response to that, because now it's pinging, it's looking for a signal. It also drains your battery, by the way. So that's how it actually makes your exposure to radiation worse, by blocking the signal from getting to your phone. It also could reflect the signal, or whatever, which also just, if anything, will probably do nothing, but if anything, would increase your exposure to radiation. So no, the stickers don't work. They don't make any sense. If to whatever extent that they do work, they only make the situation worse. Essentially, the evidence suggests that, again, unless you're spending massive numbers of hours every day with a device up to your head or up to your skin, and even then, we haven't proven harm. It's just harder to prove that there's no harm when you get to that extreme, use situations. So you can say, yeah, just use it like everything, use it with moderation. You can use the speakerphone function if you want to get a little bit of extra distance from the source of the radiation. But that's it. But don't buy these stickers. They don't do anything.
Very cool.
How can we mitigate the danger?
Okay, anyway. All right, and then let's look on to the last one.
Ceres.
Gonna go Ceres.
Radioactive stickers. Wasn't there a radioactive sticker that was for like making your wine taste better or something?
Oh, yeah.
And they were actually radioactive?
Right.
It's
Let's
like,
see,
yeah,
it's
either
for
they do
wine.
nothing or they're dangerous. Don't buy them. They're actually radioactive. No, but the levels were really super low. But
uranium is delicious.
But they actually, like that kind of radioactive, like if you have like a little
uranium
radioactive
red.
source in there, that could actually be ionizing radiation. That's dangerous. Probably wouldn't be more like having an X-ray or flying in a plane.
Right,
but
but
it's still, it's like, why increase your ionizing radiation exposure?
Sure, yeah. All right, so the next one is about Ceres. Where did you want to put that image in? Of the
Well, you don't. We could show it ahead of time.
Okay.
Or you could.
I could fly it in post.
Flash
too,
it
yeah.
up, or you could do it in post. Was what I was thinking.
And you could just point if you want, and then I could.
Yeah.
Or I could switch.
I'll just
to it.
refer to it, and you just put it in when you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, well, if you look at the actual pictures, from the Dawn
actually, yeah, I
probe.
could switch to it. Like I'll do.
People don't even talk about Ceres.
It'll be like we'll do this part talking about, and then when you want to do it, I'll just switch to that.
People don't even talk about Ceres.
All right.
Yeah, I'll say something to the kind of when you look at the actual pictures from the Dawn probe of Ceres.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. So we'll do the first part of this.
People don't even talk.
All right. Shut up. I hate when it full screen it in place. All right. Rolling.
People don't even talk about Ceres. It has the most fresh water out of any other planet. More
And
fresh
where's this location?
That's the next planet after Mars. Ceres.
Really?
Ceres.
How big is it?
It's
like Pluto size?
It's about maybe 2/3 smaller than Mars. And guess
It's a
what?
dwarf planet, so it follows an orbit between Mars and Jupiter near the middle of the asteroid belt with an orbital period.
Then when they flew by it a few years ago, the lights were on. They sent the probe out there.
What?
The lights were on. And so they started trying to say it was ice particles glistening in the sunlight. So when they got to the dark side, guess what? The lights were on the dark side. So they couldn't use the ice particle explanation anymore. So they just said, we don't know what it is.
I think that's good enough.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. I'll just bring it up so that we can have it. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's not correct. I don't know where he's getting that information. He seems to just be making stuff up. So first of all, pedantic point, Ceres is a dwarf planet, technically, not a planet. It's a dwarf planet like Pluto and like a lot of the Kuiper Belt objects. It was, at one point, it was considered an asteroid, then a planet, then back to an asteroid, and now it's a dwarf planet. But it's not a full planet. And the Dawn probe that NASA sent out and rendezvoused with it in 2015 was the first like really super close-up pictures that we got of Ceres. And what they found is that there were these bright spots on Ceres. Now, I don't know why they chose to use that artist's rendition of some world with clearly technological lights on it. Here's an actual picture of Ceres, and you can see there's like these two little white dots. What they are is highly reflective areas on the surface of Ceres. That is reflected sunlight. This was a bit of a mystery because we didn't know what process would create something with such high reflectivity. It turns out it is ice. But also, when Ceres rotates, when those spots rotate to the dark side, the unlit portion of Ceres, they go away. They're clearly reflective. They're not a source of light. They are reflecting sunlight. That's it. This information is freely available on the NASA website, and that's basically the information. The idea that the lights were on the dark side is just simply not true. This guy is just making up that information. And again, that provocative picture of clearly looks like the night side of Earth has nothing to do with what we're seeing. What I showed you was the actual picture of Ceres. There's some actually interesting science going on there. It's a shame that it then gets, obscured by the just made-up nonsense pseudoscience. So no, there aren't things living on Ceres, keeping their lights on. There was just some sunlight reflecting off of ice.
Cool.
All right, that's it.
That's it. If there's any other questions, we're done for the day, everybody. Thank you so much.
I'm going to go fix my mic.
Yeah, we should go fix your mic.
Yes.
It seems like there's no missions coming up to go to Ceres.
What I could do, if we can't fix my mic, I can use one of these mics for now until we figure out how
if it is the mic. Yeah, it might be the mic.
We should bring one up and see.
All right, I'll grab one of those.
That's always a good way to test if it's the mic.
True.
Just
anything else from anybody? Thank you so much for being here. Yep, we'll see you, I think, on Friday. I think that is the plan.
Should be able to.
We should be able to do that. Blah, blah, blah. That's it. All right.
All right.
Think we're
Bye-bye.
good. Bye-bye, everybody. Let's hit the end button and the end music. Boom.